Welcome to the Frequency Labyrinth. I am Adrienne McDonald, your host. This podcast is for you if you're done with surface level self-help and ready for something deeper and actually transformative. Around here, we work with ancient wisdom, human design, gene keys, and shamanic practices, not as knowledge to collect, but as tools to live by. This isn't about one size fits all. It's about learning to work with your energy, your design, and your life. This is about integration and embodiment. We go deep here with ancient wisdom, practical integration, so that you can develop ironclad self-trust. Let's get into it. Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back, or welcome if it's your first time. Let's get into it. You don't evolve by fixing. You evolve by integrating, by embodying, not just what you already know, everything you learn and have lived through and metabolized into actual wisdom. And because so many of you seem to have resonated with my Doubt to Intuitive Clarity episode, I was thinking about how we could continue that conversation. And I want to continue that conversation with one of the most, what I figure is one of the most misunderstood pieces of what I think is important to intuitive clarity. And that is cultivating a relationship with your North Star. Now, let's name some stuff up front. We live in a culture obsessed with fixing. Fix your mindset, fix your emotions, fix your productivity, fix your childhood, fix your blocks, fix your purpose, fix your healing, fix your frequency. And fixing has become a full-time job. It's the spiritual equivalent of being stuck on a treadmill. A lot of movement, but not a lot of direction. And people end up believing that once they fix enough things, clarity will just magically appear. But clarity doesn't come from perfecting yourself per se. Clarity comes from orienting yourself. And I feel like that's where the archetype of the North Star enters. Your North Star isn't just some poetic idea. It's that ancient internal compass that pulls you towards life that you're meant to grow into. It's the convergence of your North Node in astrology, your North Node in human design, and the instincts that I feel like they whisper to us maybe before our mind catches up. And it's also that wisdom that you've earned through your lived experience. It's the future version of yourself that already knows the way because they have, it's not because they avoided doubt, but because they're practiced movement anyway. Like it's still going. And I think that if I'm being honest about most of the personal and spiritual development stuff I see out there, I feel like it's glossed over that, you just embrace your North Star. And embracing your North Star is hard. It's hard because it's usually asking you to grow before you feel like you're ready and to trust without any guarantees and to choose the unfamiliar path when the familiar one is it feels familiar. It feels more comfortable. It's easier to justify in a lot of cases. The North Star pulls you towards expansion that also that a lot of times it feels inconvenient for your ego, for your lifestyle, for your comfort zone, for your relationships. It requires courage before confidence, movement before mastering anything, and being in resonance before approval, or over approval, I should say. And that's exactly why thinking about fixing feels safer It's familiar. It's measurable. It doesn't require you to disappoint anyone, or sometimes it's more hiding from becoming more of yourself. Because if someone calls you out on something, you say, well, I'm working on it. I'm trying to fix it. And I want you to be invited in today to think about, what if doubt isn't your enemy? What if doubt is just what happens when you've lost sight of your North Star? What if intuitive clarity isn't something you earn through self-correction, but something you access through more orientation? And this episode is about helping you understand the North Star archetype, astrologically, energetically, spiritually, and showing you how cultivating relationship with it moves you, or it can move you out of doubt into deeper self-trust and direction and more embodied clarity. Because when you try to stop fixing yourself and start aligning with where your life is actually trying to take you, then everything shifts. So when we talk about the astrology of your North Star, we're really talking about your North Node. And just as importantly, it's sort of partner in crime, the South Node. And I like to think of the nodal axis as maybe it's like your soul's before and after picture, right? The South Node is the archetypal past, the patterns, the roles, behaviors that feel eerily familiar, even if you can't logically explain it. Maybe there's a certain level of things that seem to have come naturally to you. The North Node, on the other hand, is the archetypal future. It's the qualities that you're here to grow into as part of your soul's evolution. It's that stretch that feels awkward at times, but also it feels deeply right, deep down, but underneath all the noise, in a way that you can't quite shake. So the North Node is not about becoming a completely different person. It's about evolving in a way that you express your soul. It's a sign in a house that gives you a lot of clarity around your direction. The sign describes the how, the style, the flavor, the way you're meant to engage with life. And the house describes the where. And that's the area of life that keeps calling you forward. It calls you forward for more attention and growth. There's a concentration there. And when you start to combine those two and understand it, the doubt stops feeling like, what's wrong with me? And starts feeling more like, oh, I'm just being asked to step into this particular type of courage, because it takes courage to move towards your north. And let's ground that with an example. In my chart, my North Node is in Aries in the 10th house. And we translate that into plain language. That means my soul's growth edge is about stepping into leadership and visibility and initiative in public spaces. And Aries is the warrior, the pioneer, the one that goes first without needing a permission slip. And the 10th house is career, calling, legacy, the sense of, this is the mark I'm leaving on the world. And that direction has shown up again and again in my life, leaving corporate, building a business that didn't look like anybody else's, reinventing that a couple of different times, trusting my instincts, even when the safe option would have been to blend in, keep the golden handcuffs, paycheck. And looking back, and even now, it didn't feel graceful. And it continues sometimes not to feel graceful or obvious in the beginning. A lot of times it's felt like anxiety. It felt like, who am I to do this, right? It felt a lot like doubt. And that's where I want to tie it back to your experience. Whatever your North Node is, whether it's in Leo in the 5th, asking you to own your creativity, or Virgo in the 6th, asking you to devote yourself to service and craft, or Aquarius and the 11th calling you into community and future focused work, it's going to feel like it's a stretch before it feels like it's home. That's not really, I think this is where I want to caution. This doesn't mean that you're off track. It's a sign that maybe you've actually found your edge or started to find your edge. And that nervousness, the uncertainty, the inner, am I really allowed to be this person? That's all part of the North Node territory, the journey. That's part of the journey. And on the other side of this is the axis is your South Node. And the South Node isn't bad. Think of it as the overused muscle. It's where you're skilled and competent and possibly even brilliant. But if you live there, it starts to feel stale and repetitive or like empty in a way. And the South Node is the identity that you do in your sleep. The North Node is the identity that you're learning to inhabit with your eyes wide open. If you cling to the South Node, and most of us do, let's put it out there, because it feels safer, doubt actually gets louder. You start feeling restless and bitter and resentful and unfulfilled, and that goes for even if technically your life looks great on paper. It's that internal alarm system of the North Node saying, hey, we did this already. It's time to move on. And one of the ways that the universe reinforces this is through the nodal cycles. Roughly every 18 to 19 years, you hit a nodal return where the transiting North Node lines up with your natal one. And those times often coincide with like pivots and plot twists and initiations, moments where you either feel like doubling down on the old pattern or you step more fully into the direction that your soul's been pointing to all along. And when you understand your North Node, those seasons, those cycles stop feeling like random chaos and start feeling like, okay, this is I'm marking a chapter here, right? Okay, what am I being asked to choose? Where am I being asked to grow? Where am I saying I need to choose my future self over my former self? And from an intuitive clarity statement, the North Node gives you language for why certain changes and choices feel so charged. Choosing your North Node path rarely feels neat. It usually feels very messy. And it might mean walking away from relationships that are built around your South Node version of you. It could be changing careers. It could be stepping out of the identity that made everybody comfortable, or finally taking seriously the creative, spiritual, or leadership call that you've been, casually bouncing in and out of for years. And doubt shows up here as a kind of friction between who you've been and who you are becoming. And the mind wants guarantees, and there are no guarantees. What the North Node offers is direction, insight into direction. And so when I talk about your North Node through an astrological lens, I'm really talking about giving your intuition a map. Knowing your North Node sign and house doesn't erase doubt. Nothing is going to completely erase doubt. We're in this human experience, but it can help anchor you. It can help you recognize this discomfort that I'm feeling isn't a sign that I'm broken. I don't need to be fixed. It's a sign that I may need to step into a different level, a different area that my soul wants to go with so it can evolve. And this is what my soul signed up for. That reframe alone can shift you out of that endless fixing loop and into a deeper kind of listening, one that respects your fear, but doesn't let the fear drive, because that's what you don't want. You don't want the fear to drive you. You don't want your fear to be making choices for your life. Unless you're being chased by a bear, then lean into that because that'll probably save you. But when we're listening to our North Star, and the North Node becomes more than just a point on your chart. It becomes an inner archetype that you can be in relationship with, the future self, the initiator, the artist, the healer, the teacher, the visionary, whatever your combination points to. The more intimately you understand that archetype, the less seductive the fixing culture becomes, because you're no longer trying to edit yourself into acceptability. You're learning how to walk in the direction of who you are actually here to be. And this is where intuitive clarity starts to land, when you start not getting just the random hit, but as a steady, repeating invitation from your own North Star. This is the direction I need to move in. This is the direction I need to move in. And if astrology gives us the direction of the North Star, human design gives us the frequency, if you will, the texture, the tone, the embodied energy of who you're growing into. And human design, your North Node, isn't as much about personality the way people treat like the profile or the sun gate. It's about, there's a mature state. It's the frequency that your aura is leaning to inhabit as you move through life. And it's subtle. It's less like a loud declaration and more like a pattern that keeps showing up and nudging you towards a fuller version of yourself. And your personality North Node, which is the conscious one, is the part of you that you can feel yourself reaching toward. It's the, I want to be more like this, but something in me might still hesitate. It's your energetic future self sort of knocking on the door. And meanwhile, your design North Node, the unconscious one, is maybe that feels more like your body's preferred environment a little bit more. It's the kind of energy that your physical systems feels more stable in as you grow. And together, they form this internal compass that pulls you towards the life that you're meant to be lifing, right? Now, in my own chart, because I know that many of you like seeing how these concepts really live, my personality North Node is gate 51, and it's a line 4. And that in itself could be an entire episode. Gate 51 is the gate of shock. It's initiation. It's awakening. It's the kind of energy that disrupts old patterns and calls people into deeper truth. It's think of it as like the spiritual defibrillator, like the machine that jumps the heart back when its rhythm is out of whack. It's the awakening current. And the moment that shakes loose from stagnation and wakes you up to what's real. So, and meanwhile, line 4 is all about networks, community, connection, not in a, don't think like networking event kind of way, thinking more about like heart to heart, really resonating, genuine connection. So energetically, the direction of my growth in this lifetime is about becoming someone who disrupts for awakening, who initiates people into deeper versions of themselves, and who doesn't shy away from the shock and awe of transformation, and who does it through community and connection and relational presence. If you've been following my work for a while, any length of time, you can pretty much see that arc. And even within corporate, I could see that arc. It's very, very clear. It wasn't as obvious when I was probably in my 20s, but you really don't start moving into your North Node and human design until you pass about 40. And that's really when I started feeling much more the call, the pull. Like it was a real definitive shift there in my early 40s. And the thing about the human design North Node doesn't show up as, oh, this makes sense. It really does show up as, why does this feel like the thing I'm meant to do? And why is it a little bit scary, right? And the tension between resonance and fear, I feel like, is like one of the hallmark signs of in human design of the North Node. And I also feel like that the North Node in HD is the exact area where doubt gets the loudest. Not because you're wrong, because you never practiced the thing that at this frequency before. You probably haven't been tasked with having to step into that level of courage. The aura recognizes the direction is true, but your mind is interpreting the unfamiliar as very high risk. And depending on what your risk tolerance is, that doubt can turn up to like 1,000, right? So, and that can look like imposter syndrome, because imposter syndrome loves to make an appearance there. And that's actually part of that developmental arc, is your soul chose a path where you'd have to learn to trust yourself even without proof. And there's a beautiful type of courage when you can really step into that you have to embrace. And the North Node can also feel like a frequency that you admire in others, but struggle to fully claim in yourself. It can feel like a desire that keeps resurfacing over and over, no matter how many times that you try to bury it under logic. I can attest to that myself. You might try to bury it under fear. You might try to bury it under trying to be practical. It's the energetic version of walking towards your destiny while also checking over your shoulder to make sure you're not doing something wildly irresponsible. But as you continue to walk, the energy becomes more natural. You grow into it. The aura adjusts. The nervous system starts to recognize the frequency as home instead of a threat. And what's beautiful about human design is it gives you such specific language for this process. The gate tells you the archetype that you are maturing into. The line tells you the rhythm and the posture and the way your growth wants to express yourself. It's a lot less guessing. You're learning the blueprint of who you're becoming. And when you marry all of those things together, that's when your North Node, it's a lot easier to shift things, right? Because doubt stops feeling like a sign that you're off track. And it really does feel more like an initiation. And again, this is where intuitive clarity deepens, because once you know your North Node frequency, you start to recognize when life is nudging you, because the universe is always trying to get us back on track. You start to catch the patterns, the opportunities that feel oddly aligned, but you don't have maybe the language for, the connections that feel maybe like deja vu, the desires that feel both like deeply personal, but also like slightly urgent. You start to notice when you're living from your South Node frequency, the old habit, the old identity, versus when you're stepping into the new person that your aura is trying to mature into. And one of the most powerful shifts is realizing that human design North Node isn't asking you to abandon who you've been. It's asking you to evolve how you move through the world. It's an expansion. It's not necessarily a contradiction. And the more you orient towards that frequency, the clearer your intuitive hits become. Not because you're forcing intuition, but because you're living in a way that your aura recognizes as, this is my true north. And when I talk about cultivating a relationship with your North Star, the human design component, it's a non-negotiable, because this is the energetic roadmap of your becoming. It shows you the frequency that dissolves the doubt, or at least helps you dissolve a lot of the doubt. It shows you where your confidence grows from. It shows you the version of you that your spirit is trying to develop, the you that who's already integrated a lot of your lived experience into embodied wisdom. And when you start to understand that, you stop trying to figure out you stop trying to fix yourself into clarity, right? You start trusting that the frequency that you're growing into is the right one. And that is where intuitive clarity becomes less of a struggle and more of a natural state, because you're finally walking in the direction that your soul has been pointing you all along. Now, most people don't truly get, or they don't know their North Star, and not because it's not speaking, but because they've never been taught how to recognize the voice. They've been conditioned to hear more doubt loudly than direction. And in a world that rewards certainty, performance, and predictability, the North Star can seem rebellious in a way. It asks you to trust what you can't fully explain yet. It asks you to grow into qualities that you haven't mastered yet. It asks you to choose resonance over approval, instinct over logic, authenticity over performance. And those instructions directly contradict how most of us were taught to survive. We grew up learning to listen outward before we grew up learning to listen outward before we listen inward. Parents, teachers, corporations, religion, algorithms, their entire systems built around telling us who to be, how to behave, what's responsible, and what's too much. And by the time that most people reach adulthood, they've internalized everyone else's expectations so deeply that they mistake compliance for clarity. They think that they're making aligned choices, but really they're staying within the lines somebody else drew. And when you've spent years, sometimes decades, shaping yourself around external expectations, your North Star can feel like a threat, not an invitation. So another reason why people struggle to recognize their North Star is it rarely wraps itself up in a bow as comfort. In fact, the North Star is almost always arriving with friction, because it's trying to get you back on the path, right? It asks you to leave the familiar. It asks you to let go of identities that may have kept you safe. The reliable ones, the agreeable ones, the achiever, the caretaker, the perfectionist, the, hey, I don't want to rock the boat version of yourself. And letting go of those roles can feel like, in some cases, can feel like a death. The ego interprets that loss as danger. And that's even if the soul recognizes as liberation. It doesn't matter. So that's when doubt steps in. And doubt does what doubt does best. It tells you stories that feel really protective in the moment. You're not ready. It's too late. You'll fail. You'll upset people. You got to be practical. You got to play it safe. Doubt's job is to keep you alive. Your North Star's job is to help you evolve. And these two voices are not speaking the same language. There's a cultural piece here too. Our society really does idolize clarity, but it teaches it backwards. We're told that once you're confident, you can take the leap. Once you know for sure, then go. Once the path is clear, then it's time. But the North Star does not work that way. The North Star asks you to move before the clarity is super clear. What? I can't do that. It asks you to generate confidence through action, not contemplation. I wouldn't even say it's contemplation, not ruminating over things. It asks you to trust a direction long before you can fully articulate it. And that's because the process doesn't match those tidy little narratives that we see on social media, or in a lot of self-help books. And when people see that, they assume that they're doing it wrong. And they're not. They're just not used to the discomfort of becoming. And the irony is that fixing culture, I feel like, makes this harder. Because when you believe there's something wrong with you, when you're always digging, analyzing, correcting, optimizing, those types of things, you lose that access to that quiet, steady wisdom of your own direction. Fixing keeps you focused on, it keeps you focused looking backwards. What happened to me? What broke me? What still needs to be healed? And the North Star pulls you forward. Who am I becoming? What am I drawn to? Where's life trying to take me next? And most people are so entangled in their past that they can't hear their future calling. And it's not their fault. They weren't taught how to listen with that kind of clarity. And, then there's that relational conditioning, especially for women. And people socialize into that agreeable, caretaking space. When your value has been tied to being agreeable, reliable, emotionally available, or self-sacrificing, your North Star can feel extremely dangerous then, because it asks you to prioritize your own becoming over other people's comfort. It asks you to follow your desires that may not make sense to your partner or your family or your community. It asks you to disappoint people who benefit from your predictability. And for many, that possibility feels far more terrifying than staying stuck. But this is the shift. People don't struggle with intuition because they're disconnected fully. They struggle because they don't yet trust the part of them that recognizes truth before they can explain it. Say that again. People don't struggle with intuition because they're disconnected. They struggle because they don't yet trust the part of them that recognizes truth before they can explain it. The North Star is the part of you that knows, not logically necessarily, not intellectually necessarily, but instinctively, energetically, soulfully. Learning to follow it requires a different kind of courage. And it's not the dramatic kind of courage. It's that quiet, steady willingness to say, okay, even if I don't have all the answers yet, I'm willing to walk towards what makes me feel like I'm coming home, what feels like mine. And when you can do that, even in the small ways, doubt loses its power, and intuitive clarity becomes the natural side effect of living in an alignment with your highest self. Now, cultivating a relationship with your North Star isn't about necessarily chasing purpose or manifesting a 5-year plan or a 30-step plan. It's about learning to recognize and trust and respond to the deeper current that's running underneath your life, below the noise. The one that's been guiding you long before you had language to it, okay? So most people never develop this relationship because their approach to the North Star has been the same way they approach most self-improvement. Something to achieve or decode or master. But the North Star is not a task, it's a relationship. It grows through presence and attention and the willingness to be curious about what you're going to discover. And I think that learning your North Node sign, your house placement, your gate, and your line isn't necessarily about memorizing astrology or human design. It's about giving your intuition a map to work with. When you can say, my North Node is in Libra in the 7th house, or my human design North Node carries gate 11, line 2 energy, you're not boxing yourself in. Think of it as activating a dialogue. Okay. You're giving form to the pull that's already been there. There's something that powerful that happens when that inner longing has, like, you can start having a dialogue back and forth, that it has a language. The doubt loses a little bit of authority. The future feels a little less abstract and more like, okay, this is something I can work with. This is something I can get curious about. And I think that the second place is to recognize maybe the emotional signature of the North Star energy. It almost always feels like a combination of a little bit of awkward and also right at the same time. Not wrong, right, but maybe a little unfamiliar. Like that uncomfortable stretch is part of the process. Your soul isn't asking you to be instantaneously brilliant at whatever it is that you're growing into. It's asking you to be willing to take that courageous step forward and be willing to practice. And most people misinterpret this early awkwardness as a sign they've gone down the wrong path, and that's not that's not true. That's not true. If this was meant for me, it would feel easier. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Yeah, awkwardness is part of the initiation. It's a place where you have to choose faith over certainty. And that's exactly how intuitive clarity strengthens. And I feel like the third sign is, or the third layer, I should say, is paying attention to signs, synchronicities, repeating patterns that show up once you start orienting yourself towards your North Star. And I feel like this is where more shamanic work and spirit work comes online. When you start moving in the direction of your future self, your guides take that movement as permission, more of permission to participate. And you start seeing symbols that feel a little too like on the mark to be coincidence. And I feel like guides start appearing at just the right moment. You overhear conversations that answer questions you didn't speak aloud. You may have some dreams that feel more like messages than chaos. And it's your intuition waking up and saying, yep, this is the path. And the more you acknowledge these synchronicities, the more frequent and clear they become. Now, here's the other part I would say about building this relationship. Building a relationship with your North Star requires you to reduce your dependence on external validation, because every time you poll 10 friends before making a decision, or even 5, or even 3, you're going to dilute your own signal. And every time you choose logic over what you're resonating with, you're turning the volume down on your intuition. And every time you defer to someone else's authority over your own inner knowing, you're turning it down. You're reinforcing the belief that you can't trust yourself. Your North Star can guide you, but it can't override the way that you've been conditioned to outsource clarity. Cultivating this relationship means practicing the uncomfortable art of letting your inner voice be the louder one, even when it can get really scary at times. And another piece I think is distinguishing the feel from being pulled forward versus escapism. I feel like the true pull forward pulls you forward, and escapism sort of pulls you sideways. You know, the clean desire feels like expansion and curiosity and creativity, and there's a certain aliveness, even if it feels a little scary. Whereas escapism feels more like relief, distraction, numbing, and learning the difference requires a lot of body awareness, a lot of emotional honesty, and sometimes slowing down enough to ask the harder questions and saying, wait, is this choice leading me towards the person that I'm becoming? Or is it protecting me from some sort of discomfort? And your body's going to tell you. It always knows. And there's a subtle clarity to it. A yes that sort of hums. And that as you develop your relationship, you'll get those, you'll figure out where it lands for you in your body. Ritual is another way to deepen this relationship. It doesn't have to be elaborate. You can light a candle when you feel lost. You can have an omen walk. You can set intentions at new moons. It doesn't have to be big and fancy. It's just presence and intention. And I think that you also have to let yourself be a beginner at becoming. It means willing to take steps before you have full certainty, to honor the nudges that don't make sense, to listen to that quiet voice, and give yourself a lot of grace around it. The willingness to move with uncertainty is where intuitive clarity is born, not from perfection, not from fixing, no, but from choosing that direction that your soul is calling again and again until maybe it becomes the most natural thing in the world. I know that it gets easier. So I want to bring you back now as we close this out to that reminder, though, that you don't need to fix yourself to find clarity. You need to orient yourself. Okay. Your North Star is not waiting for you to be more confident or more healed or more organized or more certain or more prepared. It's waiting for you to stop abandoning the part of you that already knows, the part of you that has known for years, more than likely, the part of you that doesn't really need the permission. So that's the real medicine of the North Star. It doesn't demand perfection. It doesn't require you to be fearless or certain 100%. It's asking for a relationship. It's asking for attention. It's asking for a willingness to move, even when that movement is really small or it's imperfect, even when you don't have everything figured out. Intuitive clarity is something that you generate by walking in the direction that your life has been quietly asking you to go. You get more of it. So as you move through this week, I want to leave you with a few invitations to sit with. Just give it some thought. Where in your life do you already feel the pull of your North Star, even if you've been pretending not to? What version of you is ready to come online, even if another part of you doubts that you can hold it? And what is that one small grounded step that brings you closer to that direction today? And remember, your North Star isn't a destination, it's a relationship. It's a conversation between who you've been and who you're becoming. And the moment that you choose to rock towards it, even if it's just a little bit, doubt begins to lose its grip and intuitive clarity becomes a natural side effect. Now, if you want deeper support in understanding the actual blueprint of that direction, the core energies, the gates, the frequencies that you're already designed to grow through, you can check out you can order your Human Design Energetic Blueprint Report, because that's going to show you how your energy moves, your gifts. It will give you the number of your North Node. It's practical, it's deep, gives you some reflection, questions, etc. So, if you're ready to understand the energetic architecture of your map, then I'll put that link in the show notes. If you found this helpful and know someone that might find it helpful as well, please share this episode out. And as always, remember to find beauty every day and seek the magic in the mundane. Thanks for tuning in today. As always, take what resonates, leave the rest. Let whatever landed move through you in whatever way it needs to or wants to. And also, if you want to explore more, you'll find more information in the show notes. If this episode stirred something in you, please share it out or leave a quick review. It helps so much and I really appreciate it. And remember, this work is about integration and it always starts with self-trust.